Bonjour et bienvenue à la conférence de presse pour les Huit Montagnes.
Welcome to the press conference for les Huit Montagnes, the 8 mountains here in competition in Cannes.
Les Huit Montagnes, the 8 mountains presented in competition in Cannes. The press conference will be in English and Italian, so I will continue in English. It's a pleasure to welcome so many of the people involved in this extraordinary film. I will present them starting at my left with the film's producer, Lorenzo Gangarosa. At the other end of the table, his colleague, producer Massimiliano Orfei. To my left, we have the film's director of photography, Ruben Impens. He was Ruben was also behind the camera and created the no less stunning but very different images in last year's Palme d'Or Titane. This is his 7th collaboration with FELIX, which started 19 years ago with Felix's first feature, Steve and Sky. Next, I would like to introduce Elena Lieti, the actress who plays Pietro's mother. We have with us Filippo Timi, the actor who plays Giovanni, Pietro's father. We previously saw him in Cannes, Château in Italy, and also he was known for Vincere. Next we have Alessandro Borghi, who plays the boy of the mountains, the wild man in the role of Luca Marinelli plays Pietro, the city boy. Charlotte VANDERMEERSCH has worked with the This is her debut as a director, but previously she's worked as a scriptwriter with FELIX, including on Broken Circle Breakdown. She's, of course, also an actress who's appeared in 3 of FELIX's films. And finally, the director, screenwriter, producer. His second feature in 2009, The Misfortunates, won in Cannes the Prix Art et Essai. His film, The Broken Circle Breakdown, was nominated for an Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film and went on to win the César for Best Foreign Film in 2012. It's a great pleasure to introduce Felix van Groeningen. We would need a much larger table to introduce everyone present who's involved in the film. So I will introduce them. They're sitting in the first row. I'll start at the left end of them, introducing actors Elisabetta Mazzullo, Andrea Palma, Christian Sassella, producers Andreas Rosati, Everard, Louis Tisney, actor Lupo Barbiero, producers Mario Mergianani, and finally, actress Surakshiya Panta. A question for Charlotte and Felix. Felix, your first feature, I'm looking at my notes trying to find the exact quote. Steve and Sky begins with the sentence, "A father and son are sitting in a cafe." Oh, yeah. A father, this is the relationship between father and son occur frequently in your films. The relationship between men. What is it about this relationship that has spoken to you?
It's true that father-son relationships have appeared in a couple of my films. And
between men?
Between men. Yeah, what to say about that? I'm sorry. I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'm sorry. Blackout.
Charlotte, I would ask you, what does a woman bring? What does your vision bring to a story about men like this, that's focused on men?
Well, what I particularly liked was that it's a very tender friendship. This tenderness, well, we think the whole film has fragility to it. It's an ode to life in all its strength and its fragility. And this friendship, especially between two men, is particular. And I mean, for us, but for me, it didn't matter if they were men or women. I could really relate to them, and they have such a respect for one another, a mutual respect. They don't always find the words to talk to each other, but they have great understanding for each other, and there's no competition. And so we really loved both Felix and I loved these very pure, honest people trying to find their way. We follow them when they're, we meet them when they're 11. We follow them through adolescence. They lose track of each other. They find each other again until they're in their 40s. So it's really like an epic story, which is so much more. It touches upon all the most essential themes of life through this friendship, which was also essential for us going through a hard time ourselves, really, writing this film, making this film also, like, reflecting upon love, friendship. We approached it as a love story. Friendship, family, parents, ancestry, destiny. Can you change your destiny? How to find your way in life and accepting life and death. For us, it was really an existential journey together with Bruno.
Fantastic. Thank you. There are a number of questions in the audience. I'll open this up immediately.
Bonjour, Karel Calamon de Carref Art Magazine. Déjà, bravo à vous pour ce film.
Congratulations on this film. I found it quite magnificent. You said you found it difficult, film that doesn't appear on the screen. My question is, how long did it take to prepare the film? Casting go?
So we actually read the book 3 years ago. Exactly 3 years ago, we met with the Italian producers, and to their amazement, we said that we wanted to make this film, but in Italian. And they fully embraced it. And then we started working on the script very quickly, and everything, sort of quickly influenced each other. When we were casting already, we were still writing, and it was really an amazing experience because we wanted to do this project in Italy and in Italian to discover a world that we knew less, to get to know amazing actors that we knew less, and just to dive into it. So pretty quickly, the names of these guys came up because they're really the most talented actors of their generation right now in Italy. But I mean, it didn't go that quickly, right? I mean, we took our time during the writing, during the casting of the kids also, to really feel that we were on the right track. Obviously, also, it was a new language we had to learn. It was a new world we had to know.
Yeah, and so we got into our camper van. We drove to Italy, a few months before the shoot. We took our son with us. We wanted to integrate in this community and learn the language even better, which was essential, of course, for making this film. And authenticity was just really important. So to every location that you see in this film, I mean, we went there 5 times, which was a big journey, often because, you know, we go high. We built this house at 2,200 meters. We went up the glacier. We hiked up a mountain in the Himalayas. So this was our journey together with our fantastic casting crew.
I'd like to jump into talking about the casting of Filippo and Luca. One critic wrote that in terms of physical resemblance, the two actors look more like the other boy as children. I'm wondering if that struck you. And also,
you're talking about Alessandro and
yes,
Luca.
Wondering if there was any thought of how to cast the role, if there was any thought of reversing the roles, or if there was any...
There was, but not in that sense. We did pair them together, and Luca and Cristiano and Alessandro. But the interesting thing is that for us, it started with finding choosing Luca and Lupo, without totally knowing if they were going to play Pietro or Bruno. We felt that they were right for the project, that they had the right soul, and that it really made sense. And Luca was really in love with the project, I could say, and had, you know, trust in us, which was incredible. So he went along with us in this journey to then figure out who is the right Pietro or Bruno. And then Alessandro, who we had met already, but actually also more tended himself towards the Pietro role in the beginning, and which was the obvious choice for everybody involved, the casting director and the producers, etc. But that for us didn't fit. And then at some point, Alessandro came back to do Bruno, found Pietro or Bruno, and then it totally came together.
For the two male leads, you've acted as best friends before, previously. Is that simply coincidence that you're doing it again? Does that give something in terms of preparation for playing here?
Ha detto che già abbiamo interpretato due migliori amici. All right, I'll go. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. And yeah, we did a movie that was so important for us, called Don't Be Bad, Non Essere Cattivo. And it was 7 years ago. But, you know, thinking about this project right now, it's like, yeah, Pietro and Bruno, they have something in common with their kind of characters, with Vittorio and Cesare, they are the other two. Kind of inverting the details, the emotional details of the character. You know, I really love this guy. So it's so easy for me. I don't need to pretend to love him. And this is a good basement to build up something there. It could be so close to the reality. That is the thing that I'm researching every time I have to play a role. So we had a good basement to build up something with the characters, with Bruno and Pietro, and with these two great directors that helped us a lot. And the mountains, that in my mind, it has been since the beginning the real protagonist of this story. So we had the opportunity to stay in the mountains, to leave the mountains with a great guide that was Paolo Cognetti, the writers of the book. So, you know, everything happened. It was a continuous discovering of something. Every time we felt just a little bit loose, we just need to remember that we really love each other and everything was so easy.
Thank you.
Do I have to say? Oh, yes. No, we had a friendship before, so I think that we used this filter to create this other friendship between Pietro and Bruno. So in a way that was easy, but we had to play people that were completely different from us, or in a way completely different from us. But yeah, in a way it was easy because we did it hand in hand, like it was 7 years ago, and we were away from 7 years, like professionally, far from each other, and then we met on these 8 years, on these 8 mountains, thanks to these 2 wonderful people here that I want to really thanks, and really thanks for your honesty and your braveness, really. Thanks.
Thank you.
And your heart.
We have a question over here. Yes, madame.
Buongiorno, Virginia Massaldaroscia per madmas.it. Avrei una domanda per gli attori protagonisti.
I have a question to put to the 2 main actors.
Come siete entrati nel
Charlotte and
personaggio?
Felix were saying earlier on. I'd like to know how
vivere così da vicino.
you really got under the skin of your characters. How did you identify with them? How did you become familiar with your characters? And also the mountain, which is the real protagonist in the film. And after the shoot, was it difficult to shed the character?
Would you mind repeating your question in English for everyone here?
Yeah, sure. I was asking how did they break into characters, and if at the end of the day it was difficult for them to abandon the characters of Pietro and Bruno. And since you lived a very close experience on the mountains, so it seems like everything, real life and movie, was really connected.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, prego. Salve. Well, I'm really not a lot into the method. So I don't think that we have to. I think we are. For me, this is just my opinion. I need to split the real life from the character's life, because sometimes it's so confusing to mix all the stuff. And you know, in Italy, at the end of the day, we have to go to the bank, to the accountant. We have to do a lot of stuff. It's not possible to act like the character. We have a life. So, and it was great just because it was such an incredible journey, and it was full of love, full of trust. So I really didn't think a lot about what I have to do, what we have to do to deliver a performance and all that stuff. It was just about doing things. We didn't talk a lot about the characters. With our directors too, it was nothing like, okay, let's sit around the table and talk about. No, it's like, okay, do you have a thought? Do that. Let's do this. If it's going to work, it's going to be good. If it doesn't work, we're going to change it. So every time was really a continuous discovering with, at the basement, a lot of trust, a lot of freedom. I felt really free since the beginning. And I think that is the starting point to be able to do something in this job. You have to eliminate the judgment, the sensation of ego, and all that stuff. You have to work together. I had the great opportunity to have this team that was great in the journey. At the end of the movie, I really, it was great if we had the possibility to shoot other 2 years. I asked for that. Mario Giannani was not, didn't agree with that, but it was great. Because it was a family, and I just need to really look at him, look at my directors, look at the screenplay. Everything was so good. And I felt the necessity to tell the story. And we just tried to do it in the best way possible, just this.
Thank you. Elena, you're at the center of the crossing of all these relationships. What is it like? How do you see your role as this mother and adoptive mother for the men around you and wife?
Okay. Rispondo in italiano forse? Okay. È una donna, Francesca.
I'll be answering in Italian.
Molto determinata.
This woman called Francesca is very determined. She has a passion for her work.
Un'assistente sociale, insomma, negli anni 70 quando ancora.
She is a social worker in the 70s.
Si occupa di bambini, di minori.
She
ha un grande istinto.
Deals and cares for young people, for minors.
Lo fa con Giovanni e suo figlio.
Her instinct is always to find compromises, and that's what she does with her son, with Pietro and with Bruno. She does it with the little Alita as well. And I've always considered that she was a very determined woman who has a real passion for her work. That's the basic component in this character, and that's what I tried to portray.
We have a question on the right.
Faisal Khan, United News of India. Question for Charlotte and Felix. What were the influences for visual representation of Italy and Nepal? In Italy, it is fewer people and more rock, and it is more people and less rock in Nepal.
Yeah, that's correct. It was also our feeling because we arrived in the mountains when there was still the second lockdown, so there was really not a lot of people there. And
in Italy.
In Italy, yeah. And it's also part of the book, right? I mean, that this idea of a civilization that is dying here, or in the Italian Alps, which is still very much alive in Nepal, and we really lived it. We really lived it because we lived for 5 months in the Italian Alps, and then we went for 1 month to Nepal with a small film crew, and we really walked up to the village you see, which is Nar, which is at 4,200 meters, which is a bit crazy, but this is the way we wanted to approach this movie. The house you see, it's built really during the shoot of the movie, and it was important that you feel that you that was the intention of the whole film crew and the process. And so in Nepal we walked up to that village, and it took a week to get there, and then we shot, and then we stayed there for a couple of days. And
there were really lots of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, there are. I mean, and these villages in Italy are really abandoned often. Well, the higher up ones often. So Bruno is the last child of his village. Well, this is really the case. So there's really an old way of living in the mountains with animals and just being self-sufficient is disappearing because of the way we live today, new rules, everything. I mean, the world changes, so this is not only a bad thing. We find new ways to, farm organically, but still, there are values in this old way of living that are being lost. And I think Paulo has a great love for Nepal and the high mountains there because it's alive. This mountain civilization is alive.
Thank you. I have a question. I don't know whether Lorenzo or Massimiliano would like to answer this. The film is based on the novel by Paolo Cognetti. What led to the connection to the two directors, the two Belgian directors, to adapt the film shot in Italy?
And it was an interesting experience because we got the novel very early, before it was published, because there was a previous relationship with Paolo, a personal one. And we always felt that there was a really universal story. So we wanted someone who could tell universal feelings. And Felix was someone that we have been looking for a long time after particularly Broken Circle Breakdown, which we, of course, loved. And so we sent a novel to him. And he got back to us saying, actually, my producer, Dirk, gave the book to me because he thought it was a book for me. And then we went, thinking it was going to be like maybe an international film. It was coming from, Beautiful Boy. And it was astonishing when we sat down and said, like, no, I'm coming to Italy. I'm going to live in the mountain. I'm going to learn that place, and I will give the same authenticity that Paolo gave in the book. That's how it went.
Fantastic. Thank you. We have a question. Yeah, please.
Hello, Stephen from Belgium. I have a question for Charlotte, Felix, and Ruben. I think this is the first movie that you've made in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose the smaller canvas for a very big setting?
It's something we discovered during preparation, that a mountain looks better on a 4:3 than on a widescreen, which you wouldn't think, but we felt it was more luring you in. I mean, it's impossible to really capture mountains. So like by showing more the height and then missing left and right pieces helped you to like lean forward instead of leaning back. But and then the moment it was based on like photos I had seen of locations we were scouting in that frame, and all of a sudden I proposed it to Ruben and Charlotte, this idea, because we were talking a lot about the framing and like how do we frame this movie, and all of a sudden it popped up, and they didn't let go. I started like doubting because I hated the format when I was younger. When I was in film school, it was the first films were always in that aspect ratio, and I wanted to make cinema. Oh, sorry. So I then started doubting, but Ruben and Charlotte were.
We really liked it because we were looking for to play with deframing and having people low in shot, and if you do it in a widescreen, it kind of feels it's a weird composition. Then you have somebody very in the bottom of the shot, but there's too much on. It's not in balance somehow, and in preparation, more and more we fell in love with it, and then we had to convince the producers, of course, of this crazy idea. But yeah, they followed us, and I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom actually, and it's just only how you look at it, right? I mean, it's less, but it's also more. So.
For me, it was also the format that that I grew up with, television format, and so this mix of old world with new world, which is also inside the story, made perfect sense for me.
And then it became a team visually also, right? To have frame and frame.
Yeah, it's almost like a square, and there's a lot of square windows in the movie, and we kind of went for this idea and explored it, and some of the shots in Nepal we framed up for the mountain and have him walking very low in shot and to make it more impressive, and I think it worked. I was a bit disappointed in the size of the screening yesterday, because of course it's a widescreen, so I think they have to change the
4:3 is the new.
Yeah, I mean, it should be higher, no? I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Questions, Ruben and our directors. If I think of your work, then I think of urban settings mostly. Broken Circle, Breakdown, there's the farm, but still, these are films that are centered in have urban settings. Was this always a longing to go out into, I won't use the word nature, but the great outdoors?
The project just decides everything, but it is strange how what we did with this movie and what we longed for in life came together, I guess. The quests our characters are on, the questions they ask themselves, it's things that we ask ourselves, and just the longing to be there, which is something super recognizable, I guess, and yet it's unattainable because we are modern people, and to really go out and live there is really hard. The writer Paolo Cognetti, he did it, and he wrote books about it, but he came back from it. I mean, it's too hard. It's really, I mean, you have to grow up there to really be able to do it, to deal with the solitude.
I mean, the conflict, which is also depicted in this scene where friends come to visit the Bar Madrola, the house they built, and they dream of living there and having this ecological village. They bring all their friends, fuck the city. And then Bruno confronts them with the reality of living there, which is really true. We have this inner conflict. We live in the city, but yes, have a great longing for silence, for outdoors, for finding a kind of meditative silence inside of you, and just hear different noises and find a different level in life, right? And this conflict is really also part of Pietro. So the being attracted to this dream, but not being able to really live there because it's not his reality as it isn't ours.
Questions? We'll bring you the microphone, sir. Yep.
Bonjour, Frédéric Rougeau de Max Cinéma. Le film semble pas mal construit autour des silences.
It seems to be built around quite a lot of silences. How did you put together these silences?
It's funny because I thought working on the film that it had become quite full. And then people tell us there's so much silence, which was actually really a basis for the film. We really wanted this. We eliminated the words that weren't necessary. We eliminated music that wasn't necessary for our feeling, because we wanted to give space to wind, to birds, to breathing, to being. And our main actors have these scenes where there's so much silence in between them. Yes, it's so filled with emotion. Like every human being is so full of everything. And they really captured this understanding of giving silence a place within their dialogue.
Thank you. I have a question for Filippo. Filippo, in the film, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up with the... Bruno says about Pietro that even if milking cows by hand takes longer, he believes that there's only one way of doing things right. That seems to me that it applies to your character as well. And can you tell us about this man who loves his son so much and is so strict, reserved?
Oui. Bonjour. Si, je parle pas anglais.
Yes.
Je peux parler français mal ou italien bégayant. Choisissez-vous. Français un po' più... No, scherzo, italiano. Speriamo di non balbettare. Allora, guarda, sì, è un padre, ma non è duro.
So indeed, he's a father, but he's not such a harsh, strict father. He loves children, and you can see that in the mother and the father.
Ci tradiscono sempre, perché scopriamo che sono esseri umani.
Children always betray us in a way. They're human beings. That's what we discover. They may fall sick, they may abandon us. At a given point in time, a mother and father discover that the children are independent, but they love their children, the mother and the father. There are different ways of loving your children. In the end, we discover that this love has nothing to do with things. We have to be forgiving with our parents because they often really bug us, so to speak, but mothers and fathers are children too. They were children, and they still reconnect with their childhood. Parents try to do their best. But what do they know? In Africa.
In Africa, e non riesco a dirlo attaccato. Comunque i figli sono cresciuti dai nonni.
In Africa,
la prima volta, la seconda sbaglia meno.
Children are often brought up by the grandparents who made mistakes with their own children. And the second time round, they do better with their grandchildren.
Avete capito, vecchia, no? E quindi è bello avere un...
Here, there obviously are differences between generations, but to have two children like them is quite wonderful. It's marvelous.
Più risolti di me, e quindi bello.
Because I think they have much clearer ideas in their minds than I do. That's great.
Massimiliano, could I ask you, coming back again, the one right way of doing this, you see that in the production and this idea of building a house at 3,000 meters or 2,500 meters in the mountains, the idea of shooting all the interiors I read in the mountains, even though that might not have been necessary. Some other producers might have insisted that they be shot somewhere on closer to the sea level. I have a question about those difficulties, but also inevitably about the difficulties posed by the various lockdowns, making a film during COVID.
Yeah, thank you everybody, and good morning. This movie is exactly what we need to do right now. We need to do bigger movies. We need to do film that deal with international and universal story, such as Huit Montagnes. And we don't have fear to afford big productions. We need, as the Italian industry, to grow up, to reach international audiences. And I'm very happy to be here for Vision Distribution. This is the first time in Cannes, and this is the first time in official competition, so it's such a pure joy. Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Charlotte. It's a privilege. Thank you all.
Thank you, and I just want to add that it was a really amazing big European co-production with enormous trust from the Italian producers and opportunities and the collaboration with our Belgian sides, with Hans Everaert, with the French being involved also, Pyramide, and Louis Tisney also with Elastic Films. So thank you all.
One of the many things I love about the film is how you weave elements that are mythical, timeless, Cain and Abel, and with very modern realities, the difficulties of being a farmer today. How did you interweave those? How did you get the right mixture?
It's all there. Actually, in Paulo's book, there's a lot there. And we try to bring out what is written between the lines also. So yeah, we tell the story of a life, of a friendship. We approached it as a love story. There's also the father-son relationship where the father needs to be killed at a certain point. There's the pain inside a friendship because the friend is not the one you're going to marry or have a child with, not the family you will go home to, probably. Maybe there's different forms of living together now, but in general, we miss our friends and we see them less than we are together. So there are huge, big movements like this. The cycle of the seasons, the coming of spring, going to winter, life and death. It was just a very epic story already, and we appreciated it for what it was, and we tried to tell it in tiny gestures without any cynicism, as an ode to the nature of life and of ourselves as beings, as a reconnection to ourselves, the other, and the earth.
Thank you. There's a question.
Another aspect I was wondering about was the music, because it doesn't seem a very typical choice, but it works perfectly. How did you come to... It's Daniel Engren, is his name?
His name is Daniel Norgren, and he's a Swedish singer-songwriter who has various styles, going from Americana bluesy to more soundscape songs or tracks. And his album À la Bercy became super important when we were writing. It was like, when I write, I have something in my ears on repeat. And it was this album. I listened for 3 years to bluegrass, but that's over. So this album was really important during the writing and very inspiring. And then at some point, it just like clicked. We were like, he's the one who should make the music for this movie. We reached out to him, and he was immediately very interested to compose music for the movie because he loved the project and he wanted to score a movie since always. But then somehow he backed out. He got scared. He was too busy. He's sort of a Bruno, actually. He lives deep in the woods and makes his music by himself in an analog way, and he goes out and records nature sounds, and he has his own record company. He doesn't want to deal with the world, although he goes out and play, of course. But he's very much on himself. So he got scared and he didn't want to do it. He backed out, and then we couldn't let go. We couldn't let go of this idea of him, his music, his world, his voice being part of this story and this movie. And then a couple of months later, we actually realized maybe we can just use his existing music and convince him like that. And we tried it in the edit, and it really worked amazingly. So we went back to him. And then he was immediately okay, because he was like, yeah, of course, I've made the music and I love the project, so if it makes sense for you guys, then, go ahead. And then he started coming with more tracks, things that he hadn't released yet, but that he had made and that he saw fitting with the movie. And then when he first saw the movie, we're still working on it with the music, he was super, super moved and said he had actually been making music for a film, but not knowing which film it would be, and that it was this film in the end.
We're running out of time, but I see we have one more question. So keep it
Hi,
short,
it's Chris from Belgium. Question for Ruben. There's a lot of static shots in the film, but I noticed at a certain point, especially in the mountains, there's travelings, and there is also at a certain point a kind of crane shot. I just wonder, did you use drones or did you put tracks sometimes?
We didn't use tracks because that was a bit, too complicated. But yes, we used drone a couple of times for this epic moment where he goes onto the grain on the mountain. But we wanted to do it very gentle, like almost static drone shots as well. And we used a long zoom lens for a lot of wide shots actually, so and walking shots. These were the tools to. And then the whole idea of the static frames became as how to say, to express the moments they're stuck with each other and being stuck in that frame and being unable to move. That was the idea behind it. Yeah.
There's so much interest in the film. Before we go, are there release dates for Italy, France, Benelux?
Dates?
Release dates.
Yeah. Well, we are trying to find a date in Italy. We are looking to the second part of the year, and we are looking for a big date in Italy, and then there will be also the distribution worldwide. We are very happy because we are receiving a lot of interest all around the world. So we are very happy. Yeah.
We're very happy too. We're very grateful that you came to talk with us and to show us the film. Auguri.
Thank you.
Thank you.